Hello, everybody. My name is Ed Lowe, head of editorial at Motor Trend, and we have a conversation today about generative AI meeting automotive. We only got 20 minutes, so I'm just going to do a quick introduction of our guest today, starting at the end. Steve Schwinke, he's the VP of Customer Engagement at Sibros. In the middle, we have Andy Shahbazian. He is the independent expert on generative AI and automotive technologies, former senior architect in automotive at Amazon, and now at Perry Labs Defense. And then Stefano Marzani, the worldwide tech lead for software-defined vehicles at AWS. And these guys are experts in their fields, and we're going to dive deep on one of the hottest topics of the day, generative AI, and what it means for automotive. So let's start with just a question to you guys about how Gen AI, how you and your company are incorporating Gen AI into the products for your customers. And I'll start at the end here with Steve.
Thanks, Ed. So Sibros, it provides a deep connectivity platform for our customers, who are the OEMs. And they're the ones that are building these electrified vehicles and really kind of helping us build, have a more sustainable future. This deep connectivity platform gives our customers the ability to get the most value from adding embedded connectivity, whether it's data collection, over-the-air software updates, so you don't have to take your vehicle back to the dealership, or remote commands to the vehicle. So the data collection is the area of where Gen AI is really showing up. It's really understanding how these products are performing and how they're being used, and how you can use that data to build a better outcome and a better performing vehicle. And so we provide our customers an insights tool. So not only do we collect the data, which your data needs vary throughout the product lifecycle, but we analyze the data for them. And just as an example, one of the things that I like to say is the art of design is reductive. So we help them analyze millions and millions of trips that they used on one of their electrified bikes, and we right-size the battery. So it turns out that less than 1% of the trips really used the full capacity of the battery. And so you can, they can reduce the cost, they can reduce their costs, and hand those costs back to the consumer as well to right-size the product for how it's actually being used.
Okay, interesting. So right-sizing, you sort of consuming all of these massive data sets of consumer usage. Okay. So Andy, same question. I know you're on your way into this new position, but is there anything from your career in recent Gen AI is such a new phenomenon that you can speak to?
Absolutely. So actually, we are seeing a titanic shift in terms of how we used to deal with our projects. From design perspective to execution to delivery is affecting everything. I think what we needed really was we needed that attention, and that's what happened through the process of getting massive amount of data. We are talking about 7 billion tokens now being added and then analyzed to give us this augmented result. If you look at actually in past, we had this process of searching for knowledge. We go to, as a technologist, you go to Google, you go to Stack Exchange, try to find what's happening in the community. Try to find out how can you really do your best to design and deliver whatever your project was. Was it over-the-air update? Was it something that you were looking to fix? Was it a bug? And it doesn't matter which industry you look at, from automotive, it actually everything blended together, even to defense. They share a lot of common areas, even for consumers. And being able to actually fine-tune your search and find your data was a key point. Now we are looking at even that is changing, because now the retrieval process is getting improved. It helps you to find the keywords that you need, and then goes back, use the inferences to get back to the right data. For consumer, it's a simple thing. You look at it and say, okay, I was looking for this content, and now I have a complete provided detail for me on how to execute my task, development. Looking for designing a new chair for your vehicle. Looking for even how to run your security in the back end. That has been changed. And now we are looking at the whole system of software-defined vehicle design is changing by these. For every single part of the design, you can actually utilize this process to make sure that you're on par with fine-tuning your execution to testing it. Some boring stuff, writing lines, 100 lines of codes to test it for you. Make sure that the consumer actually are utilizing it in a safe way. So it's the Titanic really, and I'll call it tectonic change happening across the industry for us.
Right, right. Stefano, so, small company, no one's ever heard of, AWS, just kidding. What's your approach? And with an extension question, is there something out here for this audience who's a mix of industry folks, media, consumer-focused, journalists? Do you have an example of something that we could either go out and experience right now or that's coming soon that you can talk about?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, everybody. Amazon Web Services. We do cloud services, obviously. We are the plumbers, right? So plumbers of IT in most of the cars you see around here, not all on AWS, but most of them, they have a cloud component in terms of data, compute, storage, and all this thing. We are experimenting like everybody else, right? So machine learning, artificial intelligence is not a new topic, obviously. We did it since the beginning, for example, for autonomous driving ADAS applications. But now Gen AI, of course, is a breakthrough. It's a breakthrough for many reasons. I like to tell that machines learn to talk. That's what Gen AI is about. And there's two examples from the consumer perspective. One we presented at CES this year, the first Alexa LLM inside the vehicle. So natural interacting with the car from the passenger perspective. And the other example, last year, we worked together with Volkswagen here in the US to provide a full virtual test drive experience. That doesn't mean that the car is virtual. It means that the person inside the car that delivers the test drive experience is virtual. It's an artificial intelligence. And so things are accelerating, right? So all this data that you collect, that you reference to, goes to cloud system. This generates new software, and the big part of this software is artificial intelligence. That goes inside the car, and that's the big loop, right, that we always need to keep in our minds when we approach this topic and the new mobility. And that connects to all the other systems. So that's why electrification is fantastic. It's not just the car. It's the car, the charging, your home, the energy. And so this is super important to have that, plumbing, right, well orchestrated.
So I'm going to hit you guys with a curveball. I was listening to the news this morning, and one of the items that came up was about how Google is going to walk back a little bit of their usage of Gen AI in search because some of the returning some quite questionable results, like somebody was asking how to make a nice pizza, and the AI result said, hey, put some glue in it to help make the cheese sticky or something, and some other more nefarious examples. There is a lot of skepticism around Gen AI and its utility because of either hallucinations or some of these improper results. Open question, how do you guys see this as insiders and tasked with sort of bringing this to market in a way that's safe, obviously useful, for your customers? Anybody?
I can take that. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So first thing I want to start with is, if you are starting on the journey, don't be afraid. Yes, there has been hallucination. There are mistakes that these tools are making, and the reason for that is 90% of the data that we build these tools on are coming from the internet. As you can see, there are a lot of inaccuracy from that. The majority of the good things are staying in your own data warehouse, your own content, which is in deep web, behind firewalls, behind security, behind passwords. So if you want to really have a good result out of this practice, you have to introduce clean data. We always say bad data in, bad data out. This exactly matches with this scenario as well. Now, when it comes to the next stage is, we have to install guardrails when we are introducing or we are asking questions to make sure that we are asking the right questions. And again, the responsible AI plays a really important role. Are we responsible in terms of what we are asking? Are we on the same context of what we are asking? And then afterwards, utilizing RAG, you can actually use another process to make sure that you reference the data that you are showing. And of course, we are ways and we are perhaps months or years behind where we can reference the data that we want to be accurate. But we are getting there. So definitely, there are issues. As you can see, if you go to OpenAI, there is a line disclaimer there that says that OpenAI can make mistakes. Same thing with AWS, same thing with Google. But that doesn't mean you have to stop.
Like it. Steve?
I was just going to comment, we have some real problems, and we need to focus on solving these problems, right? And so sometimes there's a lot of noise out there about what's going on with Gen AI, but we're using this in a way to really make a better future for everyone. If you look at this, what's going on here, we're making mobility fun, right? It's not just cars, it's all kinds of micro-mobility solutions. And so the challenge, the real serious challenges that we have is also how do I make these roadways safe for everyone? And how does Gen AI play in that role? And what can we do to make our roadways safer for everyone? And a lot of people talk about level 5 autonomous vehicles, but really it's about ADAS systems. It's about using this technology in a way that's going to really kind of create a better future for all of us. We use Gen AI all the time at our company for productivity purposes, right? We are not that big of a company, about 150 people, but we solve a really hard problem, which is productizing this deep connectivity platform and being able to do software updates. And it's like you mentioned the Titanic. We have, that reminded me of the Titanic and then an iceberg. What our customers see, the OEMs, is just a little bit of the iceberg, but there's a whole bunch of depth underneath it. We had a hackathon, and we have used Gen AI to kind of build an intelligent, search solution for our customers so that they can get to the information that they need about how our product is performed, how it can be used better. And so it just really, got rid of that mundane of searching and really optimize. And so our whole goal is to focus on our, the people in our company, focus on innovation, focus on the value add things that you can do, and think about Gen AI as a solution to get rid of the mundane.
So this is great. You covered a lot, and you talked about your company's approach and what you're offering to the consumer. Let's talk about you guys as professionals in your fields. How have you incorporated AI, and do you have any actionable insights or advice for folks who want to experiment? Right. So, for instance, my boss, we did a Zoom meeting last week, and he's like, "Hey guys, I added an AI assistant to the Zoom meeting, and it's this box. It's from Parrot AI. And it's just going to sit there quietly, no camera on, because it's an AI, and it's going to record what we're talking about, take notes, and send a summary back." And everybody's like, whoa. So there's one. I don't have any value judgment on it, but is there anything that you could tell this audience about either your experience with Gen AI in the workplace or some hot tip? And I'll go to Stefano first.
So absolutely. So the day after ChatGPT was out in 2022 and then so on, 2023, whatever, I sent out an email internally saying we gotta use it for everything. And this is exactly what personally I'm doing. I start to incorporate Gen AI in everything I do. So writing email, social media posting, documents, and so on. And that's me, that's mostly my job, but literally this is influencing anything. We see that the big value is when this is in the context of end-to-end workflows. So not just a simple chatbot. Yes, there's value in that, but that's in our opinion is just not enough. But really, when you have to collect requirements for a new product specification, develop code, test it out, this is really where you see a significant advantage. And this adds on top of another revolution that we know very well, that is electrification. That brings consolidation of electronic unit, a new electronic platform that mostly is virtualized. And if you add the Gen AI techniques on top of that, we see that we are really going on another, what is called S-curve. So we are in the presence of a disruptive technology that is really able to accelerate, for example, development, and this is my estimate, by 90% development time. It's not a small number.
It's huge. Andy, Steve?
I can add a little bit to that. So part of the job that I used to do back in Amazon was working on autonomy, autonomous vehicles. And there is always a challenge, like, the safety, you're looking at, how the perception of the sensors and the fusion of this data is helping the driver to be able to keep the car within actually the limits. And as you can imagine, these situations are very fluid. So one situation in a specific climate that might work in the United States might not work in other countries. And again, the climate can change very drastically, that the model that we used to use as artificial intelligence might not really be able to cope with that. But recently we see and be able to deploy very quickly at edge, not using large language models, something we call the small language models, that are trained to be able to actually inference, help the driver to be aware of the situation. Aside from being an ADAS or autonomous, being an autonomous vehicle, now we see that is coming up more to help you with even routing. Like say, I really don't want to follow everybody else's recommendation on following this path. I have a little time. I want to have a more scenic scene. So it kind of gives you a whole new idea of mapping using HD maps, using driving patterns to utilize this technology. So it's happening everywhere now.
So I use it on a personal level because I'm infinitely curious, right? And so it's just interesting to explore things and go down different paths. But then I equate that to how our OEM customers are using this technology. We provide them access to vast amounts of data about how that vehicle is performing. And what we've done is given the subsystem engineer, whether it's the ADAS engineer or the propulsion engineer on the team or the chassis engineer, the ability to be curious and explore on their own about understanding product performance, what's going on with the product, being able to detect problems, even coming up with ideas on how to do prognostics. So there's domain expertise that's absolutely critical with all these vehicles around here. But giving those engineers that have that domain expertise access to information and do it in a way that's fast and gets rid of that, that mundane part of their job and let them explore, I think that's the real power of what's going on with Gen AI, especially in the automotive space, is to be able to be fast and curious and understand and improve the product and help your quality scores.
Is there a particular Gen AI, Chat GPT or toolkit that you recommend or prefer? I mean, Stefano mentioned that. I was surprised that you're like, oh, OpenAI, ChatGPT, go. Like, we were like, can we do this? Like, our company subsequently put down some safeguards, which I know a lot of companies have about exposing their data sets, right? But is there any particular tools that you guys found super stunning?
I can talk of it. Of course, the technology has been first introduced by ChatGPT, but I think Steve is right. Everybody has different needs, and there are different models for their specific needs. If you are a coder, if you are an expert in some other domains. So in fact, the approach we took through our service, so-called Bedrock, Amazon Bedrock, is really to provide a system to easily provide multiple models. Because it's very important to customize, specialize, Andy touched that on RAG, right? So how you enrich these models with knowledge. Because don't forget, this is just machines that speak, but they don't have inherent knowledge, right? So you need to provide them knowledge and be sure to put in place guardrails to verify that the information is correct. So, and this is important. So the specialization and the flexibility, modularity is really necessary. So Bedrock is there exactly for that. Then you can use Amazon Q, that is an assistant trained on a specific domain for our AWS Web Services, for example, or for your specific data. So, but it's very important in this phase of experimentation, in my opinion, not to be locked in on a specific model, because otherwise we will incur in some of the problems we had in the past with autonomous driving development, where you are just using a single technology, but maybe you have another one that is out in 2 months. So very important.
Yeah, the pace of all this is moving so quickly, just like the pace of this panel has moved so quickly, and we're about 45 seconds left. So we're going to have to call it. I do want to say, for everybody, thank you for paying attention. I work in media, work with a lot of you folks, And for me, sometimes I think, oh man, Gen AI, dude, we're like the dinosaur sitting here watching the asteroids streak across the sky and saying, look at all the pretty colors. But the thing is, you don't have to fear Gen AI. It's not like, at least in the short term, the technology is not going to replace you. You need the guardrails, you need experts, you need human intervention. But what will replace you is somebody who understands Gen AI better than you. So that's it. Take that advice from these fine gentlemen and go forth. Thank you for attending Electrify Expo.